try to work.
Ballers in the world.
So fast, so accurate.
He reads the game well. He's great for the crowd. He has great energy.
Court awareness, it's unbelievable.
There's no words for Leander. I mean, he's almost like my brother, you know.
That's phenomenal. There is entertainment. Oh, what an extraordinary exchange.
Hardly ever have you seen a rally like this.
Is something that I take very seriously, and very proud to be an Indian and play for the country every time I step out.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure of inviting on stage the inimitable Mr. Leander Paes. 462 weeks in the top 10 in doubles, 37 of those weeks as world #1 in doubles. Ladies and gentlemen, 18 Grand Slams I'm sitting next to, and his greatest achievement in life is that recently he's found me as a friend. And I'd like to start with the latest feather in his extremely crowded hat. This happened last year. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2024, the first Asian male in the player category to be inducted into the Tennis Hall of Fame at Newport. What an achievement. And so let's start with the latest. How did it feel? What was the feeling when Martina Navratilova, your long-time doubles partner, said those lovely words about you at that ceremony? And how was it when your daughter walked up? And whose idea was it to have your daughter walk up and, you know, give you the medal? And how did it feel? Just take us through that feeling, that emotion.
Good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be back at home in Chennai. Suresh, the sports star, the Hindu, are not new friends. As a young boy, I moved here on the 12th of May, 1986, with the biggest dream to get on the sports star cover. Last night, Ayon, the editor of Sports Star, reaffirmed that I'm the one athlete who's been on the most number of Sports Star covers in the history of Sports Star. To me, that is something that I hold very dear to my heart, because journalism today is a tough business. Journalism today comes with a lot of stress. And to me, the Hindu epitomizes what journalism in the world is today. Coming back to Suresh's question, this belongs to all of us. My father summed it up really well. Every time I won a trophy, I came back home to Appa and I gave him the trophy and I said, Dad, this is what I won this week. This is what I won this month. This is what I won this year. So when I came off the stage, when Martina Navratilova said some beautiful words about me, and I'm so grateful to the love and the friendship that I have with her, and my daughter Ayana, both of them came together and surprised me that they would be putting the medal around my neck. I had nothing to do with that. The Hall of Fame had contacted Martina, contacted Ayana, and they both came to Newport, and I wasn't sure who was going to do the function, and sometimes I like surprises in life. But when Ayana put that medal around my neck, it was very, very special, because in life, I think champions are not just born, but champions are made. Champions are made with a lot of hard work. Champions are made with a lot of dedication from so many people. And the first people that I would like to bow my head and give thanks to are my parents. My mother, who is 5'0", she captained India in basketball. My stepmother, Juliana, who's been phenomenal with me my entire life. She bought my first tennis racket. She was the one who constantly kept our family together. My father, Dr. Paes, who's my North Star, he won a medal in 1972 in the Munich Olympics, and he's the one I wanted to emulate. So my parents, my siblings, my coaches, my trainers, my family. Suresh, I've got some family in the room today, and I'm very passionate about them, and I'd like to take this time to bow my head and say a big thank you to George Cherian and to Shelja and your family. I've known George since I was 12 years old. George and Auntie Champa were my guardians here in Madras, and that gives away my age because the city had a different name even at that time. But George has always stood by my side. He's been there for me. He's believed in me when I even doubted sometimes, and specifically with my daughter Ayana, who I went through a lot of trials and tribulations for. George stood by me through thick and thin. So George, I'd like to say thank you very much to you. I know that we were supposed to be in Newport together, but I would not be able to achieve this without you. And I'd like to thank Shelja and George and their family for being so special. Uttam, who's George's son, is not with us today. Uttam is in Goa at the moment working, but thank you so much for this. Dad told me that this was pretty special because he said, you know, Wimbledon, you play 14 days, you get a trophy. You play a Nationals, you play 10 days, you get a trophy. This took 40 years. And it's made of metal. It says the class of 2024. On the front, it says International Tennis Hall of Fame, Leander Paes, but actually, it should say 1.4 billion India. That's what it should say.
You know, for all those who have not been to Newport and seen the tennis museum, I urge you, if you get an opportunity, go there and see it. It's literally the temple of tennis. Right from Rod Laver's wooden racket to Jimmy Connor's t-shirt, you'll find all the memorabilia of all the greats. And to think that, what's the equipment that's going to be up? What are they going to put up for you there? Is it your t-shirt, your racket? What is it? Is it going to be part of the museum?
Yes, so the museum was curated between the Hall of Fame and myself in particular. So I worked at that for about 1 year. I've got my Olympic winning racket. The exact racket that I won my Olympics with is in the Hall of Fame. I've won the Hall of Fame 4 times in doubles and once in singles. So every time I've won, I've either given them a shirt or a pair of shoes or a tracksuit that I won with. I thought that to take India into the Hall of Fame was very important for me. So hence I gave 2 of my Indian Olympic jackets and 1 of my Indian Olympic tracksuits there. And why Olympics? Because today all of us hold the record for 7 consecutive Olympics in a row. To put that in context, that's 28 years of just playing the Olympics.
From Barcelona in 1992, correct me if I'm wrong, to Rio in 2016, right? Every 7 Olympics in a row he's represented our country, ladies and gentlemen. Let's rewind a bit from the Lee of today to 30, 40 years ago. He was actually a football player, or wanted to be a football player, and I'm told, of course he only told me, so I have to believe him, that he was a good football player at that time. So when did tennis happen to you?
He's quite a rascal, no? Every time I've come on stage, he's always worn tennis shoes. And every time I've come on stage, he's worn brand new tennis shoes. Can you please see, he's wearing Djokovic's Asics tennis shoes. Now what to do? Tennis, for me, started when I gave up a scholarship to FC Barcelona Football Academy. In 1985, I was there for 7 months. Marco van Basten had picked me as a young footballer into a Dutch football team at PSV Eindhoven, and then I switched over to Barcelona. Thank you. I believe that being born to a Bengali mother and a Portuguese Goan father, there was no choice but football. But when I came to Madras on the 12th of May, 86, I'm very grateful to the Amritraj family, especially Mrs. Amritraj, because they started an academy called the Britannia Amritraj Tennis Foundation. There were 8 guys who were much better than me in tennis. 8 guys who were older than me, stronger than me, bigger than me, and they played tennis for at least 6-7 years. I just started. So every day when I came here in 1986, for the first 52 weeks, I would lose to these boys. They would beat me 6-love, 6-love. And that first year was very hard for me because when I came to Madras, I was just shy of my 12th birthday, and my father had written me a 100-page letter. And that letter basically stated that my parents were separating and going their own ways. Every night, after going to school for 6 hours at Madras Christian College, getting beaten up by the boys in tennis practice from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., I'd come back home and after homework, I would read this letter. And every day I'd cry myself to sleep because I held myself responsible for my parents' separation. I held my tennis responsible for my parents' separation. And being alone here, I didn't have my 2 elder sisters to walk me and talk me through it. So my first year was very hard. But then there came a time in my life where I figured that that first paragraph that my father had written resembled the last paragraph. And the simplicity of those words were, Leander, tennis is your vehicle to become a man. So there are many achievers in the world who have talent, who have backing, who have support, who have so many different attributes. But I think one of my greatest attributes is the amount of hardship and pain I can endure. Nothing in my life has come easy. A lot of my life has been very hard. And in that, I feel that whenever hardships come at you, have the strength and the courage to believe in yourself that God has sent you for a higher purpose. That's why He's making it hard. I feel that champions are not just talented human beings. Champions have an ability that every time you fall, you stand up, you dust yourself off, and you go again. I think the greatest quality of a champion is to keep reinventing yourself and have a belief in yourself.
So coming back to you've spoken a lot in the last 10, 12 minutes about your parents. So having super achievers as parents, especially in the field of sports, your dad won an Olympic medal at Munich, your mom was a basketball player. Was that of help or did that put a lot of performance pressure on you?
You're stressed, no? No, but it was the greatest blessing, right? I'm a big believer in karma, and I could be born into any family around the world. But to be born to these 2 parents, all my education was on the dining table. If I wanted to learn how to handle the media, it was in the house. My father had a very unique way of handling the media. Today we got social media. Today we got digital media. Today we got so many different types of media. But my father's USP was that whether you were a first-time journalist or whether you were a seasoned journalist of 20 years, my father conducted himself with you with respect, with honor, and with patience. And I feel that the world needs that today. Not just with interaction between achievers and the media, but the world needs that with interaction of every single human being here today. Smart gadgets are dumbing us down. Smart gadgets are making us lose the ability to listen and to communicate and to have conversation. I think it's very important to use these smart gadgets to our advantage, but at the same time, conduct yourself with the person across you with honor, respect, and great dignity. Because if you give respect, you can command it. If you give honor, you can command it. If you listen to somebody, guess what? They might listen to you too. We all get caught up with wanting to be heard. But it's really important to listen too.
Let's change tack again, right? You played with some legendary players as your partners. I'm specifically referring to the two Martinas, Martina Navratilova and Martina Hingis. So tell us, how were they as partners and as people? How were they different? How were they similar? And what did they contribute in your life?
Both the Martinas are very special human beings. You all would have read about them, watched them, know them from what you've seen on the television. But the uniqueness about both of them is that Martina Navratilova is a born leader. When we would go out into a match and the toss of the coin would be there, she would always want to choose whether we serve or receive. I could not choose. She wanted to choose what time she wanted to practice. Sometimes she would ask for practice at 6 a.m. in the morning. Sometimes she would ask for practice at 12 noon. And sometimes she would ask for practice at 9 p.m. at night because the next day we are playing at 9 p.m. at night. Martina Navratilova always wanted to eat in the restaurant she wanted to eat and sit at the table she wanted to sit at. She was a born leader. Martina Hingis, on the other side, when I asked her, after winning the World Team Tennis Championships for the 4th year, we played for the Washington Castles, we were undefeated for 4 years. 4 years. So I mustered up the courage to ask Hingis, I said, Martina, we've been playing pretty well in World Team Tennis, we're undefeated. Would you like to play in a Grand Slam? You will not believe what she said. She said, what if we lose? So I tried to hold back my smile and I said, what if we win? She said, no, Leander, but what if I'm not ready and what if I look bad on the court and the men hit harder and things? And it's so unique that I think the beauty of a human being is in their vulnerability. And the beauty of a partner is on how you protect your partner's vulnerability. I went on to convince her that I had lost 74.3% of every tennis match I've played in my entire life. So if we lose, it was okay. And when we started playing, today we have the world record of winning all 4 Grand Slams, which is a career Grand Slam, in 16 months.
Wow. Tennis is an individual sport, right? Usually played by individuals, largely for individual glory, fame, money, all the trappings that come along with playing that game. But I have noticed whenever we have interacted, whenever you, me, Ion are together, you always talk a little more proudly about the Olympics and the Davis Cup, more than your Grand Slam victories, your Wimbledon, your US Open. The moment we start talking about Olympics, your chest puffs up. Or the moment we start talking about Davis Cup, you start, we can't stop you from talking after that. But, what is it about playing for this country that is so different? And because it is an individual sport at the end of the day.
See, every Sunday morning after church, I used to polish my father's Olympic medal. Every Sunday morning. I would take a tin of brasso, take one dirty rag, I'd sit on the floor in my parents' house and I'd polish it. And I would ask him, why are there these 5 rings? And he said, those 5 rings stand for the 5 continents. I said, what is this angel? He said, that's the goddess of Athena. I said, what does she stand for? And he told me the Olympic movement about good health, competition, community, so on and so forth. So I said, why is this medal more important than all the 1,000 other medals you have? He said, when you play for your people, You represent your people. And in India, we have 1.4 billion of us. When you play in Wimbledon, yes, you represent your people, but it's on a professional basis. You represent yourself. So when I won my Olympic medal, I won it for all of you. Yes, when I won Wimbledon, I won it for all of you. But 6 Wimbledon titles does not come up to 1 Olympic medal. Does not. Because it was for you. Also, when you look at Davis Cup, right? It comes back to my youth. As Suresh mentioned that my youth, I grew up as a team player, football. In team play, you got to motivate 10 others in football. In basketball, you got to motivate 4 others. But when you play in an individual sport like tennis, you don't have the luxury of speaking to your partner when you're feeling lonely from home. Today, your backhand is not working, your opponent is only hitting to your backhand. You don't have a caddy like you do in golf to say, how do I protect my backhand? Or when I was playing tennis, you couldn't talk to your coach and get coaching to say, my serve is not working, do I move the toss because the wind is blowing at center court of the All England Club at Wimbledon? So those benefits weren't there. But I will always remain a patriot, and I will always strive to do my people and my country proud, because that means more to me.
Such a fulfilling career you've had while playing tennis.
Not too bad, no?
Okay. Any plans of chronicling your experiences and encapsulating this huge body of work in a book or something? Is something around the corner?
See, he's such a naughty man, no? He knows exactly what is happening, but he wants me to say. So, after I got inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame, I could not rest. I figured there's more to do. So now, I've spoken to the International Tennis Hall of Fame and I'm becoming like a brand ambassador to them. Then once that was done, I came back to Mr. Ram, to Ma'am, to Ion, to the whole Sports Star team, Hindu team, and to this Gunda over here. I spoke to them and I said, you know, it's great that I'm in the Hall of Fame, but let's take India into the Hall of Fame. So what we are working on now, in collaboration with the Sports Star Hindu, with the International Tennis Hall of Fame, is to take all of India in the form of an International Tennis Hall of Fame Sports Star The Hindu coffee table book, which will have 13 chapters in it. The chapters, Ion, may I? Some of the chapters will have all 4 Grand Slams, and I've won 20 Grand Slams, so that's 5 Australians, 5 French, 6 Wimbledon, and 6 US Open, if I'm not mistaken. And we will, through a pictorial journey, talk about how a young Indian boy from playing gully cricket and gully football then got to win 20 Grand Slams. A couple of the other chapters will be the Olympic chapter where India holds the world record. A couple of the other chapters will be the Asian Games. Apurva, who's here, who's my CEO and my boss, he just enlightened me a few weeks ago that we also have the record of the most number of medals won by any Asian Game athlete. And that's 8 medals, if I'm not mistaken. So the Asian Games is going to be one. And there's going to be another chapter with the 194 doubles partners that I've played with. And that's going to be written by them. I'm more looking forward to that. Now that we've all retired, they can tell me truthfully what they really thought of me. While we were playing, they still needed me, so now it's cool. But this Sports Star, the Hindu International Tennis Hall of Fame coffee table book, we're looking to launch at Wimbledon 2025. And this book will be placed inside the Museum of the Tennis Hall of Fame. So it'll be part of my archives there, and will also be presented to every head of state around India and around the world with all those 194 doubles partners I've played with. So I like taking India to the world.
You have defeated Roger Federer in a singles match.
Don't look so surprised. Can you guys see his eyes?
No. I'm very
He's standing here saying I lied or something.
He has even defeated Roger Federer in a singles match. Is that better?
Yes.
Huh?
Little
All right,
more.
Okay, that's
little more.
better, right? Okay. So, so tell us about that match.
What else to say? I defeated Roger Federer. The score was 6-3, 6-4. What else?
Okay.
You know what's really cool though?
Yeah.
If I can share, I've played Roger once in singles, didn't lose, I won. I've played him 10 times in doubles, and the head-to-head is 7-3 India. Also played Pete Sampras 4 times. The head-to-head is 4-0 India.
Oh, wow.
But before we get a big head, no, I played Andre Agassi twice, 0 to India.
So you played tennis, active, professional tennis for 25 years. That's an amazing longevity for a sport like that. And for a sport that requires that kind of physical fitness. So what kept you going for 25 years? And it required a lot of discipline, I'm sure. And what are the kind of sacrifices you had to make to, keep yourself sharp for that long?
Sacrifices. I don't look at it much like that. I think sacrifices are part and parcel of any achiever's life. Yes, I had to sleep in locker rooms. Didn't have money for a hotel room. Yes, I've got a big scar on my chest from getting mugged at Grand Central in New York, 23 stitches. Yes, I've been through a lot. But on the other side, look at the beauty of it. Traveling the world over 40 years, circumnavigating, chasing the sun every year 4 times is not a bad life. You get to meet people from all different walks of life. You get to meet tribal people all the way from the Maoris in New Zealand, all the way to the tribes of Machu Picchu, all the way through all of Asia, all of the former Soviet Union. And you get to learn so much about life through first-hand experiences. You get to sit and break bread with them and discuss with them about their ideologies of life. I've been lucky to play 7 Olympics and have met athletes from Mark Spitz, all the way to Usain Bolt, to Michael Phelps, to the Dream Team, Michael Jordan, and those guys who I looked up to so much, and share with them their training methods. And in turn, what was unique was some of the great athletes, we all thought similar, that Eastern philosophy blended with Western technology was a sure shot success story. And now that one is played 40 years and had a very, very blessed career, now the idea is to impart that knowledge of 60 years of sports science knowledge from my father and 40 years of my own practical knowledge, to impart that with the youth and empower the youth through sport as a vehicle.
Which brings me to the next logical question, which is that now that your professional playing days are over, you're still young, you're still fit, you look good, you're intelligent, you speak well. Am I doing well?
I'll give you 100 rupees later. Keep going.
Okay. And you're still full of energy, right? Sometimes. So what lies ahead for Leander Paes?
I have one question for you. You're saying so many nice things about me, but I was watching that AV behind. Why do you choose the dirtiest pictures of me and put it on the screen?
You spoke about your struggle and sleeping in locker rooms and all that. So we just depicted that, yeah? I mean, they should also see the struggle, right? Not only hear it from you.
With friends like this, no one needs enemies. But now I've started a company called Flying Man Ventures. And the logo of the company is one of my favorite shots, which is my dive backhand volley. And that's it just there. A very wise sports businessman called Mark McCormick, who started a company called IMG International, he designed a logo for Michael Jordan, which was the Jumpman. And then he designed this logo for me, which was called the Flying Man. And in 1990 at Junior Wimbledon, Uncle Hussein was sitting and watching my junior singles final. And right behind Uncle Hussain was Sunny Gavaskar, my father, Kapil Dev, Naresh Kumar, and Uncle Hussain had the London Straits Times, and with his charcoal pencil, he was sketching one of the dive volleys I'd hit, because I was doing so many dive volleys in the match that it was etched in his brain. So he was sketching. But my father and Mr. Gavaskar and Mr. Kapil Dev and Naresh Kumar were waiting for Mr. Hussain to leave and put down the paper on the bench so they could grab it. But from 1990, this has been a trademark for me, the Flying Man, and it's become my logo. Today I'd like to introduce you to two individuals, Apurva Sirkar and Shramana. They are right here. Guys, if you can stand up. This is my CEO and my marketing. Apurva's down at the console there, making sure everything's going well. Thanks, Apurva, for bringing me here today. And these two cats who are present with us today and the rest of the teams back home, we have devised a system to use sport as a vehicle to empower the youth. How? Today, we live in a tech age. I've taken 60 years of my father's sports science knowledge, all his teachings about physical fitness, mental fitness, emotional fitness, testing of the human body, and devised a system through COVID when we were all locked in our houses for those 18 months to 2 years. I had a great opportunity to sit with my father finally after leaving home in 1986. And I figured the best way to do it was to spend every breakfast, lunch, and dinner with him talking about sports science. So he imparted all his knowledge to me and the rest of our team, and now we have built an app, and we call it the Physical Athletic Education System, PAES. Not too bad, huh? So
Creativity.
So we've devised this Physical Athletic Education System, and we're going around the world now imparting the knowledge. My father and his team have already captured 39 million students over the last 40 years through the Asian Cricket Council, BCCI, FIFA, All India Football Federation, ITF, the International Tennis Federation, and All India Tennis Association. From 1991 to 2013, we were coaching 2 lakh children up in Chandigarh and testing the system. And now what Apurva and Shramana and myself and the team are doing is that we're going state for state, school for school, college for college, and also private academies, plugging in our app to scout talent, nurture talent, and do sports science to rehab them.
Wow. That sounds like quite a handful. It's going to keep you very, very busy. Apart from, I believe you're also into corporate, you give a lot of corporate talks and training, and you're also, I'm aware that lots of corporations are calling you for leadership summits and stuff like that. So
after that lesson you gave me from the last talk we did, I thought I could, get onto stage and impart my knowledge. But corporate speaking is another thing that I enjoy a lot, because health and wellness is not just for the professional athlete. Health and wellness is for every human being. If you look at the stress that we all go through, right? We go through traffic stress, we go through weather stress, we go through relationship stress, we go through marriage stress, we go through parental stress, we go through academic stress. Modern life is also teaching us to take on so much of stress. But I think it's very important to learn how to manage that. How not to take it on, but how to just let it sift by. Bruce Lee said a beautiful line, be like water. Take the shape of any vessel you're in. Sometimes you got to flow like water. Not take stress, live your life. Life is going to give you stress 100%. How you manage it and how you react to it depicts who you are as a person. People don't remember what you necessarily say. They remember how you made them feel. So managing stress is such an important part of life, of how you interact with people. So for a simple example, someone could come up and be upset for whatever reason that I'm not aware of. They could have had a bad day at home, their parents could have said something, their wife or husband could have said something, their office boss could have said something, or maybe they just got a headache. But when they come to me and come to me aggressively with a problem, I could either treat them badly and push them away and ignore them, or I could have the wisdom to understand they're feeling some stress and give them 1 second of a smile or put my hand on their shoulder, and without even saying anything, just through body language and through communication, just take their stress away or let them realize that that is a passing moment. So be active rather than reactive is what I'm trying to get at. Do not react to the stress that some humans bringing to you. Take a second, absorb what they're saying, diffuse it, think, and then act. And if you can replicate that, life's pretty fun.
Talking of stress, let's give Leander Paes 60 seconds of stress. So here's my rapid fire round. Leander, you're not allowed to think too much. They're just 10 questions and you get 60 seconds to answer them. All 10 of them.
The last time you did this, you asked me some very under-the-belt questions.
Yeah, that's the whole idea of the rapid fire round. Okay, you have to pick and tell us your personal favorites. Bjorn Borg or John McEnroe?
The right-hander.
No, Bjorn Borg. Agassi or Sampras?
They're both my friends, Dad.
Choose one.
Serve and volley.
Sampras. Federer or Joker? I know the answer to this one, but I want to hear it from you.
They're both my friends.
Yeah, but tell us the truth.
The GOAT.
Absolutely. That's Joker. Among the new kids, Alcaraz or Sinner?
Yo, Alcaraz.
Sachin or Virat?
Huh?
Sachin or Virat?
Number 10.
Yeah.
See, it's going to get me in trouble. It's recorded, no? They're going to see it later. You all are clapping and laughing. I'll be in trouble next time I'm having dinner in their house.
Ronaldo.
You won't give me dinner, Dad.
Ronaldo or Messi?
Number 10.
This guy is playing too safe. Okay, Kolkata or Chennai?
Panjim, Goa.
I think he's going to enter politics after this.
Actually, you know what? He's saying Kolkata or Chennai. India. Chennai has 23 million. I played for them. I played for you. Kolkata has 28 million. I played for them also. But India has 1.4 billion. I'm Indian through and through.
All right. Coldplay or Linkin Park?
Coldplay or?
Linkin Park.
I'm a Swiftie.
Sean Connery or Daniel Craig?
James Bond, baby.
All right. Anna Kournikova or Maria Sharapova? I'm talking about tennis.
Then my answer is over.
Times of India or The Hindu?
Sports star, Ayan.
Ladies and gentlemen, the inimitable Mr. Leander Paes.
Let the round of applause continue for Mr. Leander Paes. I'm afraid there can be no question and answer session due to the paucity of time. That's